I want to welcome everybody to the Supporting Job Seekers with the LearningExpress Library.
Welcome to today's webinar. Thanks so much for taking part of your morning today to learn a little bit about LearningExpress Library, and thanks to Lisa and everybody here at DEED for inviting me and for facilitating today's webinar. My name is Matt Lee. I'm a librarian at Minitex. I do work for Minitex. Minitex is a program of the Minnesota Office of Higher Education and the University of Minnesota Libraries. But in a nutshell, Minitex exists to provide resources and support to libraries of all types across the state, including, of course, the DEED library and the folks who use that library. Minitex provides that support in a number of different ways, one of which is by managing this program called the Electronic Library for Minnesota, or ELM. And so I wanted to start off just kind of talking a little bit about that larger program, because the Electronic Library for Minnesota is something that includes LearningExpress Library, which is the specific thing we'll be talking about today. ELM, as we call it, is a collection of library research databases. So they're paid for with state tax dollars, available across the state. And these library databases contain journal articles, magazine articles, newspaper articles, millions and millions of different types of specialized research materials that students and learners of all ages can use to kind of build their skills in a number of different areas, learn about different topics, and can find trustworthy information online and learn and make kind of more informed decisions throughout their lifetime. These databases, again, are paid for with state tax dollars, available to any Minnesota resident, and they're also available to Minnesota libraries and schools to use. So in terms of accessing these databases, there are a couple of different access points for you folks in workforce centers. For yourselves, one way to get to them is through the DEED library website, and Drew is going to talk about that a little bit later. But it's a place where you can go to get access to these databases, in addition to other, maybe in some cases even more specialized resources that DEED has purchased for you as well. The access point that you have to recommend to your customers out there in workforce centers. You can see that there are 50-plus databases in this collection of databases in ELM. We're just going to focus in on a particular set of those databases called LearningExpress Library. And to introduce LearningExpress Library, I wanted to use this quote that is attributed, anyway, to Abraham Lincoln. When Abraham Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe," or maybe preparing, if some of you have used different versions of that. I was thinking about coming and speaking to you. This quote kind of jumped out at me as a nice metaphor or introduction to LearningExpress Library. So LearningExpress Library is a collection of tutorials and practice tests and ebooks that can help learners to build skills in a number of different areas. Those practice test tutorials and ebooks are organized into 9 different centers. Each center is focused on a particular topic or a particular maybe like group of learner or type of learner. What I wanted to do here is to just go through 7 of the 9 centers in LearningExpress Library. In terms of what to do next, I kind of wanted to now go out live and take a look at one of these centers and just show kind of how the centers in general are set up, to give you an introduction to navigating through them that hopefully you can use to explore either on your own or down the road to explore some of these centers in more detail. So I'm going to go out to the ELM website, the Electronic Library for Minnesota website, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that is in just a sec. What we're looking at now is Electronic Library for Minnesota's website. This is a place where anyone in Minnesota can go to get access to any of the databases in ELM. ELM contains 50 databases, so the first step really is to figure out which of those databases is relevant to a person or a researcher. We know that there are these tabs along the top of the page here that will show databases relevant to different types of researchers. We know that we're looking for a database called LearningExpress Library, so we could use this databases A to Z tab, which is a big old alphabetical listing of all the databases in ELM, to find LearningExpress Library and click into it. The LearningExpress Library also shows up in a number of different places. There's a topics tab here that will show databases that cover certain topics particularly well. So if you're looking for databases to help build computer skills or help with job and career search, you can see databases that help with those topics. There's a content type tab that gets a little more granular and will show databases that contain certain types of content. So maybe if you were working with a job seeker looking for information on certain companies, you might find databases that cover certain companies particularly well, or researching industries, see that. LearningExpress library, you'll remember, has ebooks, tutorials, and practice tests. So as in terms of the types of content included within there. So I'm going to select one of those. I'm going to select test preparation to find those practice tests, that content. LearningExpress library is the only database in Elm that has practice tests, so it's the only one that shows up here. If there were other databases in Elm that had practice test or test preparation stuff, you'd see them listed here, though. I'm going to click into LearningExpress library in just a sec, but when I do, something mildly interesting happens. The website is going to check my IP address, and if it can tell that that IP originates in Minnesota, it's going to let me into this database without requiring any sort of sign-in or login or authentication, manual authentication of any kind. If I am outside of the state boundaries, or if the site can't tell that my IP is associated with Minnesota, it'll ask for and require a Minnesota Public Library card number in order to access this database. So that library card is how we kind of lock that down. Okay, so here is LearningExpress library, the home page. We saw a screenshot of this earlier. You can see a sort of rotating carousel here along the main part of the page that will highlight the 9 different centers in LearningExpress library. I've got my email address up there on the screen. So in addition to that, on that PowerPoint screen, you'll see a link to something called the Elm Learning Center, and that Elm Learning Center contains a number of different sort of one-page fact sheets. It has short videos, hands-on activities on learning more about the Elm databases in general, including LearningExpress library specifically. It's on the Elm portal, elmforyou.org. You'll remember that I mentioned the Elm Learning Center, place where you can go. Find a link to that up here. And the Elm Learning Center contains a number of different types of materials on the different Elm databases, including fact sheets and videos and activities. And I wonder if some of these fact sheets might serve as some of those quick reference guides. We've got a number on LearningExpress library that just sort of introduce what LearningExpress library contains, what the different types of materials are in there, the topics that it covers. So it just sort of introduces a little bit in a sort of one-page attempt some of the different types of materials that are included within LearningExpress library. When you're in LearningExpress library, here we are, we're still in the Career Center, and this is a little bit hidden. I'm going to go into the weeds and geek out a little bit here. If you can remember, if you go into the Administrator section, there are a number of bookmarks and product sheets and other sort of quick reference guides that you can download and use from here. And these ones, from within the database, these are created by LearningExpress library specifically, rather than by us at Minitex.